Hi, boys and girls. I'm going to read Junie B, first grader, Cheater Pants. One of my teachers told me that this was really funny, and I don't think we've read this in the library or, I'm not sure. This isn't one of our library books. Mr. Keene gave it to me to read, so let's just see how funny it is. Junie B, first grader, Cheater Pants. Contents. A plus May. A plus May. Okay, Junie B is writing in her journal. Monday. Dear first grade journal, yesterday was the weekend. The weekend is the nickname of Saturday and Sunday, only I don't know why. Those 2 days zoomed by speedy quick, and that's how come I didn't have time to do my homework, because what do I look like? A clock or something? Last night I begged to stay up to do it, but Daddy said no, and he turned out my light, and that was not helpful. Now I am at school, and Mr. Scary said to please take out our homework. I feel sickish inside. I hope the Daddy's proud of himself. From Junie B, first grader. Next to me, May got her homework out of her backpack, and she put it on her desk. And she smoothed out her paper and smiled. I'm sure I'll get another A on this one. I get an A plus on all my homework papers, Junie Jones, she said. One time my homework was so perfect, Mr. Scary sent a happy note home to my mom and dad. I did a shrug. Blah, 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 I said back. May did a mad face at me. Then she quick tapped Lenny on the back of his head. Lenny, did you hear what I just said to Junie Jones, she asked. I told her that I always get A pluses on my homework. Lenny turned around. Please don't touch my hair, May, he said. I used my brand new gel to spike it today, and I don't want you messing it up. I waved at Lenny across the aisle. I would never touch your hair, Leonard, I said. Your hair looks like an interesting glob of artwork almost, and artwork should just be gawked at. Lenny nodded. Thank you, Junie B. Jones. You're welcome, Lenny, whose last name starts with an S, I think, I said. After that, I just smiled at May very smuggy. Lenny likes me way better than he likes her. May squinted her eyes at me. How come you didn't take your homework out yet, Junie Jones, she asked. You're not following directions very well this morning, are you? I did a big breath. Then I quick reached into my backpack and I pulled out a rumpled paper, and I pretended it was my homework. There, I said, there's my homework. Now, please mind your own beeswax, you snoopy pooper, May. May's face got reddish and flushy. She tried to raise her hand to Tattletale, only just then the teacher called her name. May, it's your day to take the attendance sheet to the office. Would you like to come up here and get it, please? Yes, she said. I would love to, Mr. Scary. The attendance sheet is when the teachers send the names of the absent children to the office. I do not actually approve of that practice. And May hurried to the front of the room. I'm never absent, Mr. Scary, she said. I'm always here. Have you ever noticed that, huh? Have you ever noticed how I'm always here? Mr. Scary closed his eyes for a second. Oh, yes, May, he said. Believe me, I've noticed. May did a giggle. Also, I'm always punctual, she said. Have you noticed that, too? Have you noticed how punctual I am? She smiled at the class. Punctual means on time, everyone, she explained. Last year, I was so punctual, I got the Punctual Award. The Punctual Award is an award for the child who is the most punctual. Mr. Scary stared at her, and he said to please stop saying punctual. After that, May took the attendance sheet and she skipped to the door. Don't worry, room 1. I will get this attendance sheet to the office all safe and sound, she said real loud. And then everyone who isn't here will get reported to the principal, and that's exactly what they deserve. Mr. Scary did a sigh. Please, May, just go, okay? He said. May did a wave, and then she hurried out the door. After she was gone, I roamed my eyes around the room. All the children had their homework papers out but me. My insides felt sickish again, 'cause pretty soon Mr. Scary would find out that I didn't do my assignment. I swallowed real hard. Uh-oh. What is she up to? Because it looks to me like she's looking at somebody else's desk, like the teacher's. My eyes kept roaming around, and then what? Nope, not the teacher's. And then what do you know? They roamed over to May's desk. And surprise, surprise, I saw her homework paper sitting there. It was right out in plain view, I mean. My heart pounded and pounded at that sight, 'cause my brain was getting an idea, that's why. And I tapped on my chin, very thinking. And then, oh no. And then, quiet as a mouse, I pulled May's paper a little closer, and I copied what it said. And after I got done, I breathed in relief, 'cause now I had a homework paper. And I smiled to just myself, and then I closed my eyes and I whispered, "Thank you," to May for letting me borrow her homework. Okay, we're going to go on to Chapter 2 because I need to find out. Chapter 2, Weekend Fun. May got back from the office, and she stood at the door and waved again. "I did it, everyone! I got the attendance sheet to the office, just like I promised." She looked at Mr. Scary. "It went very well, too," she said. "There were no problems I couldn't handle." Mr. Scary raised his eyes from what he was doing. Okay, well, thank you, May. You can take your seat now, please," he said. But May kept right on talking. "At first, I didn't know where to put it, but then the secretary told me to put it in the wire basket, so I followed her directions perfectly," she said. Mr. Scary pointed at her seat. "Excellent," he said. "Now, please sit down, okay?" May didn't pay any attention again. "When I was in kindergarten, I got an E+ for following directions," she said. E+ is better than excellent. The plus sign means extra, extra excellent. And just then, Mr. Scary stood up, and he took May's hand, and he walked her to her seat. And as soon as he went back to his desk, I strained my brain for something nice to say to her, 'cause I was still happy at May for leaving her homework out. Finally, I tapped on her arm, and I smiled. "Welcome back, madam," I said real friendly. May did a frown at me. "What kind of a crack was that?" she asked. I just looked at her. Friendly does not come natural to us, I think. Pretty soon, Mr. Scary stood up at his desk, and then he walked to the board and he wrote these words. "This weekend, one thing I did for fun was..." "Okay, everyone," he said, "for your homework over the weekend, I asked you to complete that sentence. Remember?" Room 1 nodded. "Good," said Mr. Scary, "because this..." Here's Mr. Scary, and he's writing on the board, and back to the words. "This morning, I'd like for each of you to read your homework paper to the class. That way, we'll find out what our classmates do for enjoyment. Doesn't that sound fun?" Room 1 nodded again. Even if it doesn't sound fun, you still have to nod. Mr. Scary smiled. "We'll go up and down each row until everyone gets a turn." He pointed at Lucille. "Lucille, why don't you start us off?" he said. Lucille sits in the first row by the window. Last year, me and her were bestest friends, but this year, we're just regular. Lucille stood up and fluffed herself, and then she picked up her paper and she started to read. "This weekend, one thing I did for fun was... my Richie Nana took me to her expensive beauty salon, and both of us got manicures and pedicures." Mr. Scary looked surprised at that news. "You got a pedicure, Lucille? Wow. That's pretty fancy stuff, isn't it?" Lucille shrugged. For some people, maybe, she said. She looked down and kept on reading. Also, we each got a papaya fruit facial, and Nana got an herbal body wrap. Plus, I got a seaweed scalp massage. Mr. Scary stood there for a second, and then he nodded, very slow. Alrighty then, he said. After that, he pointed to Camille. Camille is the sister of Chenille. Those two were twin sets. Camille stood up. This weekend, Chenille and I made a puppet theater out of a cardboard box, and we put on a show for our little brother Neil. Mr. Scary beamed at that news. Oh, that's great, girls. I bet doing a puppet show for your brother was a lot of fun, wasn't it? Not really, said Camille. Neil kept on grabbing the puppets off our hands, and then he made them kill each other. We don't like Neil, said Chenille. Neil's a boob, said Camille. And Mr. Scary Mr. Scary just stood there some more. Then finally he moved on to Roger. Roger was the best one so far. What does that say? Oh, we can't see. This weekend, the one thing I did for fun was I went to get pizza with my dad, and I ate a whole entire anchovy, and I didn't even throw up until I was almost home, and room one clapped and clapped for that amazing story. Mr. Scary was right. It was fun to learn what our classmates did on the weekend. I couldn't wait for it to be my turn, because I loved to talk in front of the class, of course. Plus, all I had to do was tell about my weekend, and Mr. Scary would think I did my homework. I put the paper I copied from May into my desk. I didn't need it after all, because what do you know? Today, I lucked out. Okay, next time, we'll come back with Twitching, Chapter 3.